Cold War Zombies is now over, and this year has been a pretty polarizing one, I think, for different people in the community. For some people, this has been like a top 3 zombies year. They've absolutely loved it. There have been all sorts of new features they've introduced that have just revolutionized the mode in different ways and made it really fun to play. And then for other people, it's been a bit of a letdown. It hasn't really scratched that itch of what those OG Zombies community members have been looking for, and they've felt a little bit let down as a result. And so today I'm going to break down some of the things that I think were amazing that they added, and there is a lot of good, and I'm going to also explore some of the things that I didn't feel were so strong, and we'll sort of reach some kind of conclusion about how good this year of Zombies actually was. Before we talk about gameplay, or we talk about features, or those sorts of things, we've got to talk about just some of the fun moments that we've all had this year. There have been just a lot of little things that have cropped up that have been really joyful, and I mean, here's an example. You're just casually going up the zip line, you're minding your own business, nothing could possibly get in your way, and then holy fuck. Stuff like that, man. It just makes me smile. Another one that is a fond memory for me is the little things that I snuck into my Easter egg guides through the year. So in Firebase Z, we have this. I don't know if YouTube allows this sort of stuff, so I'm going to put something on the screen instead just to make it friendly for children, but you know what's going on here. And in D Machine, we had this, which a lot of you guys seemed to really love that I included. You may need to go a round or two, you may even need to go several rounds, but you're going to want to wait until a Chungus has spawned in, and when there is a Chungus Amungus, he needs to shoot the fungus. So in the spirit of those good memories, I figured I would drop some Chungus merch that I originally designed in like December last year and just never released. I just got busy with other stuff. I was burned out. I was making so much goddamn content. It was ridiculous. I meant to release this literally just after D Machine came out, and I just never got around to it. But now, in the send-off to Cold War Zombies, as we're saying goodbye to this game and we're looking back on it fondly, I am dropping, for a limited time, for 2 weeks only from the posting of this video, so it ends on the 17th of November, the Chungus Amungus t-shirt. It features the cutest possible megaton little bundle of joy that I could possibly whip up, shout out Senpai Beth, popping out of a little vent in very much a Chungus Amungus fashion. To buy it, you can go to waffles.onedge.com. The link is in the description down below. Like I said, the sale will only be going on for 2 weeks, and we're doing a limited run of these because it's just meant to be a send-off to Cold War Zombies for all of you guys that want to kind of look back on the game and have something to remember it by. The first batch of orders will all get a free MrRoflWaffles pin just thrown in there, and we also have a very limited supply left on the website of Waffles socks and of Waffles keychains, but be careful because they will sell out really quickly. The supply is really limited on those, so make sure you're quick if you do want to grab those as well. The shirts will ship after the sale ends, and they should all arrive in time for Christmas, so you could make the most of this little opportunity for some Christmas prezzies. Might be a good idea. And the Waffle socks, by the way, like, this is what they look like, right? I love these things. I wear them so much. I've actually lost the other one in this pair. I don't know where it's gone. It's been eaten by my washing machine because the washing machine likes it so much, apparently, but this is what they look like. You've got like your syrup sort of on the toe, and then you've got the like waffle print there. Some people say they look a bit giraffe-y. I just love these things. They're so comfy, they're nice and stretchy. These are great socks, so grab some of those too. So that's enough of that. Chungus Amungus, 2 weeks only. And now, in the spirit of that, let's look back on some of the best things that they did add to the game this year. A lot of these opinions, by the way, are also things that you guys have shared with me on Twitter. I was talking with a bunch of you today, twitter.com/MrRoflWaffles. We were just sort of discussing some of these really golden moments and memories. So thank you to everyone that did contribute so that I could sort of make this list more complete. So a big thing for people this year has been getting back together with friends that used to play zombies back in the day, or with people that haven't necessarily played zombies before. Maybe it's a girlfriend or boyfriend. Maybe it's just a new friend that you've met more recently, or hasn't had the ability to play zombies until now because it's just been a bit too difficult, or they've been on the wrong platform or something like that. Jumping in with them and having an experience that didn't feel like you were sort of forced out like a Shadows of Evil, where there's a real barrier to entry where you have to be a certain level of skill in order to enjoy that map, I think. That was really good for those players, and that was a theme that ran through the entire year of content. It's something that Treyarch have talked about in their design decisions. It's been all over. And it goes for solo players too. Being able to jump in solo where previously you might have been a little uncomfortable, but then in this game, do Easter eggs on your own and sometimes figure them all out by yourself as well, like doing them alongside the YouTubers when we're doing the races at the start of the maps. That's been a real source of joy for a lot of people. A huge number of people have said that that's just made their year, so that's been really cool. It's also something that Treyarch had previously said was a problem they were trying to solve. Previously, unless there was a guide on YouTube, only like 2% of people might do an Easter egg in a game, and so it was very guides reliant in that kind of sense, whereas now, I think guides are a bit more supplemental, which is worse for me, to be completely transparent. I mean, I want you guys to watch my videos because that's how I make my living, right? But when they're supplemental, it does mean that you feel like you have more agency in the game, you're figuring things out, you're having a better time, and that's going to mean that you're more likely to stick around in the zombies ecosystem for longer. So honestly, it's like a rising tide lifts all ships in that regard. And on the topic of making people feel like they had a lot of agency and power, being able to like get the ray gun out of the box and it actually just be really good. Like obviously it was rare, but you could get it. It was amazingly powerful and it would just completely elevate a play session if you did pull that, especially if you're a less confident player in the game. The wonder weapons I think felt really good. You could just get them out of the box. You could get them out of the trials machine. There were so many ways to get those. And again, to make those more casual players feel powerful. And while that was all going on, you also had some really cool set piece moments this year. So going into the Dark Ether for the first time with your friends in D Machine, or jumping into Mauer Toten, trying to run to the power switch and getting hit by a train.
Save zombies, save zombies.
Oh, I got hit by the train! Wait. Let me try to get a kill. Can y'all wait in a zombie? Oh my! What?
Bro, did you just get deleted from the map?
I did!
Those were really well-engineered, well-crafted moments where they don't feel annoying to replay, but they do give you this real sense of wonder the first time, and that's really got to be applauded, I think. And while you were experiencing those initial set pieces and those new experiences that they were crafting, we also had crafting. We had salvage this year. We had the armor system. We had all these new ways of interacting with the zombies sandbox that just sort of weren't there before, and that was a real refreshing change, I think. Not everyone liked all of those things, don't get me wrong, but I think that the experience at launch of getting used to the salvage system and getting a feel for what it was like to upgrade your weapon rarities and stuff like that was a net positive for the game. I think that it did really improve things. Armor is one of those things where it's like, it's got pros and cons for sure, but the pro of armor, I think, is that it really adds to the gameplay loop. It's another resource that you're constantly managing, where previously we just sort of had points that were there and that was that. Now you've got this thing that you constantly kind of want to keep topped up, and it does cost money, so you do need to be mindful of that. But then at the same time, you can also get it from the zombies from slaying out. You can get it by being aggressive. You can do all of those sorts of things too. So there's a real nice balance there, and I think they did a really good job introducing that system and making sure that it added to the feeling of a player getting better at the game and being more skillful, rather than just sort of feeling like a crutch at all times. I also think that the limited time events they did this year were, on the whole, another net positive. I think that the early stuff they did, the first Cranked, for example, could absolutely have been implemented better. I do think that there are things there that Treyarch will learn from this game that they will apply in their next ones. But stuff like this most recent Halloween update, where the mimics have pumpkin heads and you're running around the map and you're picking up jack-o'-lanterns to get wonder weapons and you're super, super powerful, like you're super OP for essentially no reason, like crazy early in your game, that for a limited time is fun. Like that is a good thing for those more casual players to be able to jump in and be even more powerful, have even more of a chance to sort of slay out and enjoy the mode a little bit. And also just gives you the feeling that zombies is getting some attention, you know? Like having zombies with Santa hats and stuff running around at Christmas, having zombies with the pumpkin hats at Halloween, those sorts of things make you feel a bit more as a zombies player like you're valued by Treyarch, and it's not just the MP guys that get all the cool like limited time events for the seasons, and that's that. Another thing that I think was a massive deal this year was continuity through your games. Okay, so in the past, obviously, you get set up, you die, oh man, that sucks, you jump into the next one, maybe you have some more weapon attachments. Whereas this year, we didn't actually need to get set up and then die. You could get set up and then exfil, feel like you had a more tight and controlled play session. You were winning at the end. There was a clear win condition as opposed to, oh, I'll just kill myself. Oh, I'll just let the zombies kill me or whatever. And you would get bonus rewards from that we'll talk about more in a second that would mean that you would then become more powerful in your next game. And that was a big thing, I think, for replayability in this one, which again, we'll talk about in just a sec. Another thing that was sustained between games was picking up intel. And I personally wasn't a fan of the intel system in the sense that it meant that a lot of the story wasn't told within the gameplay. It was told in audio logs or just paper notes that I only really listened to or read outside the game. And it felt like there was a little missing in the game, but we'll get to that later. But I will say that being able to read those notes and stuff in the menus was good. Like, that was just a good change. Not having to go back into the game and run to a specific location to listen to a radio if you wanted to re-listen to it. I think the accessibility of being able to sort of quickly reference it back in the menus was good. Similarly, adding things so that you can watch past cutscenes in the menus too. They added that towards the end of the year. That's a positive change. Another thing that was new this year was Outbreak. A lot of people hate Outbreak, but a lot of people love it. And like I've been saying, those more casual players or the players that felt like zombies was a little inaccessible before, or just players that are not casual by any means, but just sort of want to chill out or have a different kind of play session on a given day, those people have loved Outbreak. It's been a really refreshing tone change and vibe change and pace change this year. And it's totally new. We've been saying forever, oh man, open world zombies would be so amazing, right? Like, I have made videos about that like 5 years ago saying that's a dream, and it came true this year. And yes, there were aspects of it that could have been better, I think, but on the whole, I think the fact that Outbreak exists is a victory. That is just a victory in itself. And I think it did contribute to replayability because Treyarch themselves have said that about 50% of people play Outbreak and 50% play round-based maps. So we're moving away from round-based being the only thing that anyone cares about. Outbreak clearly is cared about by a lot of people. Maybe it's not the OG hardcore high rounders, but it is still cared about by an equal number of people and is just as valid. And having the ability to go back and forth does make the game more replayable. So let's talk about replayability. A lot of people have said the game's too easy this year, and we'll get to that in a moment like I've said. This isn't just a video praising the game exclusively. But for many people, this has actually been an extremely replayable year of zombies. Part of this was thanks to the crystal system, where you would earn your Ethereum crystals in the game, and then you'd be able to spend them in the menus on skill upgrades, and then take those into your next game, keep earning, rinse, and repeat. And there were quite a lot of different upgrades that you could get. You could upgrade all of your weapon types, remember? You could upgrade your perks, you could upgrade your field upgrades. There was an awful lot to do. And for players that play a little less frequently compared to, like I said, those round 100 high round grinders, those players took a while to get those crystal upgrades. Like, I still today get people asking me what's the best way to earn crystals super fast and stuff like that. To this day, because not everyone jumps into the game at launch. Not everyone thinks, oh, zombies is the thing that I'm going to grind for the entire year right at the beginning of the year, right? Like, there's always new people coming into the ecosystem, and the fact that that system is there was really cool. I thought it was absolutely amazing. And that feeling of, okay, I've died in this game, but next game I'll be stronger, I think was a really important thing for them to add to make people feel like their progress wasn't entirely lost and their time wasn't wasted when they play. It's the same reason why I've always said, if you're doing zombies Easter eggs, we should get some kind of reward at the end, man, because it makes you feel like your entire experience, those 3 hours going towards something, have gone towards it for a reason. Maybe the first time you just do it for the experience. Maybe the second time you do it because you're showing some friends. But after that, you want something at the end, right? And that's what X-filling allowed for. And that's also what this skill system with the crystals and stuff allowed for too. Similarly, Dark Ops challenges. I think a lot of folks have been grinding for those Dark Ops challenges this year and also been grinding camos. I personally am not a camo grinder at all. I don't find that fun, but I know a lot of people have had a really good time grinding out for Dark Ether and stuff this year. And that kind of feeling of accomplishment when you're like 3 months into the game and you finally get it and you're like, yes, I've done this. I'm a boss. Also, while we're talking about like skill tiers and stuff like that, I should quickly say the fact that each perk in the game has 5 different upgrades to it, each of which meaningfully transforms the gameplay in a significant way, is crazy to me. Like, it's not like we've got like 10 perks. It's like we've got 30 because there's so much stuff that each perk adds on, and there's no perk limit. So by the time you've got all of them, you feel really powerful, and yet they've done, I think, an amazing job in making sure that it doesn't feel like just because you've got all the perks, you're unstoppable and you will literally never die. It hasn't felt like that due to the perk system. There are some other things we can talk about related to that, but the perk system, I think, has been fine. No perk limit, thumbs up. Really, really good upgrades, thumbs up. I've liked it. And the last thing I'll mention for replayability is you also don't have to play the game the exact same way every time now if you don't want to. Like, in the past, there was kind of an established formula that you sort of needed to end up relying on. Like, you would get to a point where your pack-a-punch guns would be totally useless. You just had to use traps to kill zombies, for instance, or you had to use one wonder weapon, for instance. But in this game, there's been more work, I think, to mean that in the earlier to mid-game, like up to, let's say, round 55, you can do pretty much whatever you want. Like, you can literally use regular guns and just rely on AATs up till round 50. That works totally fine in a whole bunch of the maps. You then, after that, are not reliant on traps in order to get through the rounds. You can use your guns and still kill if you want to. It's not like you're Fixu on town trying to get to round 100. Like, the guns still actually do stuff, but you also have the option to use the ray gun, for instance, or to use the die shockwave or the whatever die electrobolt or whatever you want to use. Granted, some are better than others. Like, I'm not saying that there isn't a meta. It's just that it's been nice to feel like I can jump into a game and, like, shotguns, for instance, aren't going to be significantly more annoying to use than an AR because of the fact that they earn less points. And that's not me saying that the point system is necessarily the best in this game. It's just the fact that the loadout system is there, so that you can customize all that stuff, you can switch stuff in-game. The fact that we can do that now is phenomenal. But then also you can jump in with those and upgrade them and still feel powerful pretty much no matter what. Like, that is just good, man. It means that there is room for variation there. You can jump into the game and basically shred with whatever you want to use, and then just exfil if you want to. And that's a nice, tight, controlled play session, and you've succeeded. You have won. You're much more likely to come away from that feeling good than you are to feel like, oh man, I just wasted 3 hours, right? Also, I have to mention this. Oh my God. Mantling. It's been so good this year. The fact that in D Machine, we all jumped into the game, right? We all jumped in for the first time, went into the Pack-a-Punch room, and walked along the little corridor there to get to the pack, and then realized, hold on, I can climb this railing and jump up and just jump off the side. Mind-blowing. Honestly, so much fun. Also, the fact that in the way the movement system is designed, you can edge slide. That's a big deal because you get all those massive speed boosts in D Machine, and now that they've added PhD and you can edge slide even further and faster, it's really enjoyable, man. It's just a fun thing to do. So Mantling gets like a 10 out of 10 out of 10 for me. It's been so damn good. There are negatives associated with it that we'll come back to, but on the whole, such a good addition. Please, Treyarch, never take that away. It's little things like that that just make me happy, man. And there have been other little things too. Like, for example, remember in Firebase Z, when we were doing that little spawn jump? Granted, Treyarch took it out of the game, and that was a bit of a sad moment. But when that was there, that was awesome. It's things like that that just make me so happy in zombies, when there's little opportunities to be skillful and to show a friend something and then have them be like, how the hell are you doing that? Like, that's crazy. How's that even possible? I did really like those moments this year, and I'd like to see more of that in future Treyarch. If you can give us little opportunities to be skillful in Vanguard and beyond, that would be really good. I also liked how, I guess maybe self-aware is the right word, Treyarch were this year with some of the Easter eggs. So, for instance, the coffin dance Easter egg. I mean, come on, guys. It is one of the best zombies Easter eggs, side Easter eggs of all time. Like, I really firmly believe that. Just because, again, from the perspective of someone that's never seen D Machine before, going into that and then doing that egg and warping and being like, what the hell's going on? I just shot these like random glowing balls and now I'm teleporting somewhere and they're all dancing and it's a disco. Like, that is so damn cool. Reminds me of that, it was a Halo Reach Easter egg, I think, with the disco room. Very sort of similar vibes, but zombified. 10 out of 10. Great stuff. Wow, we're really in a new paradigm here. I just referenced a Halo Easter egg in a zombies video. 6 months ago, I didn't know anything about that series. I thought Master Chief was the Arbiter. And now I know that he's actually just my good friend Wormy. How times have changed, eh? I also think that a bunch of the things that they changed at launch and introduced for the first time, like a minimap in zombies, at first, I looked at that and I was big thumbs down, boo, this isn't zombies, boo. It's fine. It's honestly fine, and it feels pretty good, to be honest. Being able to path towards the last zombie at the end of a round or something, really useful. Like, it's just a good system. And granted, I'd like to be able to make it smaller in the HUD. I'd rather it be something I could toggle on or off, stuff like that. But the fact that it's there, I think, actually ended up being positive, which just isn't something I expected. And damage numbers, I mean, I knew I was going to love that. I absolutely knew when they announced it. I was like, I'm just so into this. And I do love them. Damage numbers are a really, really big deal for me. Also, zombies' health bars, I think, are really positive. Those little changes it just feels so good to me. It improves the quality of life. It just improves the gameplay. It makes the gameplay better for me. So that stuff, big thumbs up. And another thing that really improves the gameplay is the Rampage Inducer. Oh my god, how did we never get this in a previous game? Like, how is it possible? It's taken us over a decade to get to the point where we have something in the spawn room that can just speed up those boring early rounds. Like, Treyarch already were aware of that when they changed the system so that we had loadouts so we could spawn in with guns that weren't a cult, right? Like, they were clearly aware of that. But the fact that they've now added something which is so basic, but that cranks the difficulty up and cranks the speed up and the energy and the fear, so good. It goes all the way to round 55 now. It doesn't just end at round 20. It's an amazing change. This should never leave zombies. It's honestly glorious. 10 out of 10, Treyarch. And similarly, another thing that's been amazing this year is the boss fights. I really do believe that they've done some incredible stuff with those bosses. I think that in D Machine, it was a little meh. And in Firebase C, it was like, okay, it's really cool, but somewhat undershot its potential, I think. It was more of a kind of Zetsubo vibe than anything else, but then that Outbreak Easter egg, man, where the Legion of Tempests is in front of you, and that's a really hard boss, and it's on a timer, and it was even harder at launch because you would come out of that area, the silo, and be absolutely wrecked because the zombies were all super sprinting in there, and it was insanely difficult if you were at like a high round. If you were at like a low round, fine, no problems at all. But if you were at round 9 or something, round 10, you were going to have a tough time. And that was really cool. And the boss fight itself is cool as well. I think that the fact that you're managing shooting in front of you and then also having to aim up to shoot the Tempest while being aware that there's a timer going on and it's got armor and stuff. Like, I think that was a really cool boss fight. I loved the scale of it. It was enormous. Very cool stuff. And then in Mauer der Toten, really damn cool boss fight. I loved that one. I thought it was really fun. I didn't think that it was very difficult. I think that it could have potentially done with being a teeny tiny bit more challenging maybe, or maybe just in co-op. But still, amazingly good boss fight, and I think that it was a really good way to kind of bring the story of that map together, even though it was a little unclear what was happening going into it. I think that that was a really good way to wrap it all up. And then in Forsaken, oh my goodness, that boss fight's really damn cool as well. I love that boss fight. I think that the way that it's staged as well, the way it feels really cinematic while you're doing it, you've got your friend jumping on a turret, you can see them blasting all the zombies away, you can see them blasting the Forsaken in the forehead, then you teleport mid-fight and he's like, you're gonna just totally screw everything up if you kill me here. Like, there was a lot of good stuff in that fight, man. And thematically, the Forsaken is using field upgrades against you because the Forsaken has absorbed the other Elder Gods, who are the field upgrades in Vanguard, at the point where he steps out of the portal in Forsaken. So, like, it all comes together so well. He literally uses all of those field upgrades against you in the fight. I thought that was so damn smart. Really, really neat little thing from Treyarch that a lot of people actually missed. And overall, I like the direction they're taking these boss fights in. A little harder, wouldn't go amiss, but they're really cool. And maybe the most important thing on the list here is a change that they added somewhere around sort of December, January. That's none other than petting plague hounds. Everyone loves it. No one's going to complain about being able to pet the doggo. It's a good change. I give it a 10 out of 10. Good job, Treyarch. So this is a lot of positive from the Chungus Amungus fun little moments that we had at launch. Remember, waffles.ownage.com to buy the t-shirt. All the way through to, seeing Edward Richtofen right at the end of it all. And that end cutscene, man. That's actually something that really does deserve some props, I think. I think that's actually low-key. Like, don't tell the really hardcore fanboys this who hate my opinions no matter what I say. But I think that might have been one of the best endings we've ever had in zombies. Like, the fact that it tied together in that way and it was emotional even for people that didn't even realize they cared about the characters. I had people in my comment section saying that they were upset that Gray and Carver and stuff were being arrested even though they didn't care about them an hour earlier before the egg was solved. Like, that is a sign of a really well-executed ending, really well-put-together cutscene there. And the setup with Peck at the end, the mystery of that, and the Forsaken being a thing that we can worry about in the future, but that for now does feel like we've contained it successfully, like we achieved something, but it was a Pyrrhic victory, right? At what cost? That whole thing. I actually think they did it really well. I really, really do. One of the best parts of the story this entire year was the very end of it all. And it's not because Richtofen showed up, it's because of all the other things coming together and just feeling like they were honored. It wasn't just saying, haha, we're resetting everything, Origin's ending by the way, cry Milo, oh, there's a dog. Like all of that. It wasn't that. It was, you've done some crazy stuff, you've succeeded here, you've actually made a big difference, you have set some other threads up for the future that will get addressed in the future, and that will be something to look forward to, but meanwhile, can you just consider for a sec what it cost you? Just think about what it cost you. But what I was getting to is that there were a lot of people that didn't like the game this year. And interestingly, those people pretty much have a counterpoint to all of the good things that I just listed. So, for instance, getting back into the game with old friends that were kind of excluded somewhat from playing it before because they weren't good enough, the other folks will think, well, there should be a bit of a barrier to entry. You should want to get better. It shouldn't just be easy straight away, right? This is meant to be a mode that takes a little bit of skill, and the fact that it felt like it didn't take nearly as much skill this year was a really big problem. High rounds, for instance, are a perfect representation of this, where I've talked with like Noah and Chop and JC and Lex, and we've sort of argued back and forth, like, okay, high rounds being easy is a good thing because it means casuals, for the first time really, actually think they have a shot at doing around 100. Like, they want to try and do that, but then on the flip side, all the really experienced players just get to around 100 in their first game, and they're like, what do I do now? Like, I'm done. It's over. It's just too straightforward. And it being too easy is a theme that I see just all over the place, whether it's on TikTok, in my YouTube comments, on Twitter. Absolutely everywhere, there are people that think the game is just too easy, and that means they don't care about it. They will not play it. They think that having the ability to just keep buying self-revives is awful because you just never die. They think the game is too forgiving in terms of the fact that you have armor and you have Jug. It literally tells you how to activate the Pack-a-Punch machine and turn on power. Some people feel like the game shouldn't do that. It should be a mystery. You should be sort of exploring it and figuring it out as you go on your own terms. Outbreak was new, but the counter-argument is that it wasn't what people wanted, which was more round-based maps, and it meant that we had like a 6-month wait between Firebase Z and Mauer der Toten that for a lot of people was kind of vacuous. There wasn't a lot to do in zombies because they weren't interested in the Outbreak mode that was meant to be the gap fill there. And increasingly, as Outbreak has taken more and more focus and dev time from Treyarch's point of view, that's meant that those players who only care about round-based are like, well, I hate this because I want round-based stuff, and my game mode is being eaten into by this other one now, and that's not fair, and I'm not being paid attention to, and all that sort of thing. I think Treyarch have a somewhat impossible task, to be honest, balancing these two communities, but it has been a concern for a lot of people this year. Also, I spent a bunch of time praising the crystals, the Ethereum crystal system, and all those upgrades, but again, for more hardcore players that play more frequently and stuff like that, those crystals can all be maxed out in very little playtime. Like, for people that do play regularly, you get them really damn fast. And believe me, I don't play a lot of zombies. I really don't. Shout out Joey Conway. But even I ended up with all the crystals that I wanted in like a day or two. Like, it really didn't take long. Still, I love the system, but I do know a lot of people were like, well, what if they could just give us a system that resets every season? Like, why isn't there even more stuff to grind for? Why doesn't it just keep going? Why aren't the limits of how many crystals you need to pay for stuff higher so that you don't just get everything so quickly? But the problem again is that those less hardcore players don't play the game as much, and so they would then just like never unlock stuff. So it's a difficult push-pull. The story is a big thing that a lot of people have taken issue with this year. The fact that the operators have been so quiet, the fact that they don't really talk to each other, the fact that a lot of them feel pretty devoid of personality, the fact that they also just shouldn't really be there, or they don't really feel like they should be there. Like, why is Rambo in zombies and why is that canon? It's a little bit weird. There's also a cohort of people with population 1, being me, who thinks that the operators that we use being in cutscenes isn't good. But for some reason, when I said that in that video, there's like a whole group of people that have taken it upon themselves to just be like, MrRoflWaffles is stupid because he has an opinion about this. I don't really get why they care so much about what I think. I mean, thanks for letting me live rent-free in your heads, but like, it's just a bit weird to me. But I stand strong in thinking that custom operators just shouldn't be in the cutscenes. I do think it just creates dissonance and it breaks the feeling of seriousness in those cutscenes, really, in a big way. So for the story and for some gameplay elements like that, the operator system, I think, needed some work this year. And I think Treyarch are aware of that. I mean, I've spoken to devs and they sort of know. So it does seem like something that they're going to be working on in Vanguard, which is good, and trying to improve in Vanguard. I do think side quests may have been a bit lacking this year. Firebase Z is a really good example of this, where Firebase Z came out, we solved the main quest, of course, in like 45 minutes or something ridiculous. And then all of the side quests, I think, were found and solved within 24 hours, if I'm not mistaken. And that's really, really fast. Like, it would be really cool to have some stuff that was there to appeal to the more hardcore play base. And to be honest, I think that is like my main overall gripe with the mode just in general, is it felt like the first 24 to 48 hours of playing a map was really damn good. But after that, for people that had rinsed it in that time, there wasn't so much reason to come back, compared to if you're the sort of player that would jump in, maybe play a game on launch day and then not play for a few days, maybe play the next weekend with some friends or something. Like, if you were being more measured with it, then you would sort of continue to really enjoy the game. But for the people that just jump in and consume content, like me, it definitely felt like you exhausted all of the content pretty quickly and then had to fall back on systems like grinding for camos, which I have no interest in, which is why I basically never play the game. As a zombies player who's been playing since the very beginning, I recognize that my own interests have changed, and there are some things in the game that used to appeal to me that they are still doing that just don't appeal to me anymore, right? Like, my ability to enjoy the same things as before has been reduced just by time alone. And that's tricky for Treyarch to balance, because some people really like the old stuff. Some people like the really new stuff. Some people like a mix in between. I get that it's a tricky kind of design space to be in, but on the whole, looking back, I actually think that as long as Treyarch can take what they've learned about appealing to the casual community and build that up so that there is a little bit more depth to it for the hardcore folks, we could be in for a really, really good couple of years of zombies content. I know there's no round-based stuff in Vanguard. I know that's a real concern, but I'm up for trying something new. I'm up for that, and I'm worried about the fact that there's no Easter egg at launch, but I'll focus on the story at launch then, so maybe there'll be a benefit there to kind of outweigh the con. I don't know. Overall, I'm just excited to see what comes next. I still long for a day when Treyarch is more communicative about the design decisions they're making. I long for a day where they bring in people into the fold to talk about it more with them, where there is a bit more communication, where they can say, this is why we're not doing this a little bit more, and this is why we're doing this, or what do you guys think? Like, a little bit more of that approach, I think, would go a long way with Treyarch and with Activision, and would just earn them some community goodwill as well. But on the whole, I think this has been a good year. To be honest, I think it has been a good year. So Treyarch, thank you for all the hard work that you've done this year, and I hope you aren't too burned out going into Vanguard Zombies now straight away. If you guys agree or disagree with any of my points, let me know in the comments down below. And of course, if you want to buy that lovely t-shirt, waffles.onish.com is the place for you to do it. Thanks, folks. I'll see you next time. Bye for now.